Hi, I'm Jeff Harris, the senior pastor here at Grace Point Church. Welcome to Discovery. You're obviously here because you're interested in learning more about the mission of Grace Point Church. Our mission is to lead common people into uncommon life in Jesus. And so as we talk about Discovery and what it means for you to be a part of Grace Point, it's kind of important for you to understand our story. Likely, if you're here, it's a desire to be a part of something bigger than yourself. When we read in Scripture, in Acts chapter 2, we read about a vibrant New Testament community. It says right here, all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, and to the sharing of meals, and to prayer. A deep sense of awe came over them, and the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers met together in one place. They shared everything they had. They sold their property and their possessions. They shared money with everyone in need. They worshiped together at the temple each day, met in homes for the Lord's Supper, shared their meals with great joy and generosity, all while praising God, enjoying the goodwill of all the people, and each day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. That sounds like an incredible experience. And that's the experience that we long for as a community of believers. And at Grace Point, we have the privilege of experiencing that. Now, in my life, oftentimes church was the last place in the world that I wanted to be. I'm a preacher's kid, and so from the age of 13 to about 23, I ran as far from God and as fast as I possibly could. I wanted nothing to do with church. I didn't like church people. I didn't like legalism. I didn't like the division and the dissension that I associated with church. And so I was as surprised as anyone when God called me. And I'll never forget that day. I was a back room of my parents' house at 4 a.m., and I had wrestled with God all night. And finally, I surrendered my life to Him. And He called me, and I said, you know what, I'll do anything. I'll be a youth minister. I'll go to Africa and live in a hut. Just don't allow me or cause me or call me to be a pastor of a local church. Well, here I am. And so that's my story. And I didn't want to be a part of church. I went off to seminary, and that's when I fell in love with what the church could be. So after graduating seminary and coming here and starting a work here at Grace Point Church, that was what I set out to pursue, a church that was vibrant and alive. But it hasn't always been easy. Matter of fact, early on in our ministry here, we were a small church, and we started to experience some of those divisions and some of those dissensions. And I remember going through a season, and it was a difficult season because I felt like every time I walked out of the church that there were arrows in my back. I felt like people were whining and griping about, well, the music's too loud, or the music is too rock music, and how come you don't preach from a pulpit anymore, and how come we took the chairs down off the stage, and just petty little things that over time just began to wear me out. And about 4 or 5 years in, I was just tired. I was tired of being criticized. I was tired of being snarked at, beat down, whatever, however you want to say it. And I remember taking my vacation all at once that year. And I had started riding a bike, and we in riding and training, and a buddy of mine said, hey, why don't we do a triathlon? And I said, well, I know I can do the bike part. I don't know if I can do the swim. I'm pretty sure I can do the run. So I went to my mom's house. I swam a couple laps. I said, sure, I can do the swim. So we go out to Marble Falls, and we do this triathlon. And I dive into the water, and I'm swimming, and everybody and their dog passed me. So the guys passed me, the gals passed me, the old guys were passing me. I get up out of the swim. It's a 3/4 mile swim. I get up out of the swim, and I'm second to dead last. So I hop on my bike, and I start riding out. And if you know Marble Falls, it's 5 miles into town, and it's 5 miles out of town. And so we're riding out of town on our way out to do a 25-mile loop. And as I'm riding out, I'm second to dead last. And what they do is they put your heat number on one calf, and they put your age on the other calf. And so I'm riding, and the guy behind me, the last place guy, is starting to catch me. And as we're going up this climb, he passes me, and I look down, and I see on his calf 67. And it wasn't his heat number. It was a 67-year-old guy who was passing me, and I was just totally demoralized. And so I'm defeated, and I'm still riding. And about that time, the first place guy's coming in, and he's this flat-bellied, good-looking, bronze Adonis-looking guy on this titanium rig, and he's coming in. He's in first place. He's already finishing up as I'm starting out. And he looks at me, and he says, "Come on, you can do it." And it was one of those pivotal moments, because as these guys were coming in, as they were finishing up the ride, they would yell and they'd say, "Come on, you can do it." And at the turn, the people were like, "Come on, you can do it." And I remember that day just being overwhelmed, being really mad at one point. I finished the bike ride and I started the jog, and literally I'd come up to the water table, I'd drink a glass of water, and as I'd run off, they'd tear down the table and they'd get on the walkie-talkie and say, "Okay, the last place guy, he's done. Pastor Justin, he's finished." They knew my name. People had been encouraging me. But I got really mad that day because I had received more encouragement to run a meaningless triathlon than I had ever received to run the race that God had called me to run as a senior pastor of a local church. And I just got hacked off. And you know what they say, there's nothing more dangerous than a guy who doesn't care whether you fire him and who's mad. And so I came back and I was like, "Fine, fire me. Here's the deal. We're going to pursue this vision of a New Testament community to lead common people into uncommon life in Jesus, no matter what." So I came back that day, and we then went off on a staff retreat, and that's when we framed up our mission and our vision and strategy. And so you're going to learn more about that up ahead as we talk about the vision frame. But we came back and we just decided, you know what, we're going to pursue what we call the 5 Gs: grace, growth, gifts, give, and go. And we're not going to balk about that. And so grace is about your identity and your lifestyle, sharing your faith in Jesus. Growth is about being in a small group and sharing community with others and pursuing intimacy with Christ, with others. Gifts is about knowing your spiritual gifts, using them. Give is about giving a tithe, a biblical 10% of your resources, so systematically and proportionally and sacrificially using what God has given you. And go is about going locally every year and going globally every 5. And so that's who we are. That's what we're committed to. And so we don't make any excuses about that. And so I just tell people right up front, that's who we are. We know who we are. And so if you're here to discover who we are at Grace Point, that's who we are. We don't want members. You know, there's an old 80s saying, members has benefits. We're not looking for members. We're looking for mission covenant partners, people who will understand that as they make a commitment to a local church, they're making a commitment to a body of believers to be an integral part of that body. And so you're running your race, and we're here to encourage you. We're here to say, "Come on, you can do it." But we're not here to pacify you. We're not here to allow you to take up space. And so if you're looking for a church to join, someplace to come and show up and hang out, that's not this place. We actually need those seats. As you notice, our services are crowded. We need those seats for someone who's far from God, who either doesn't know Jesus, or someone who's radically committed to uncommon life in Jesus. And so where we go from here is this is just discovery. This is you finding out about who we are. And the next step would be next weekend for you to show up at Mission Covenant Partners Workshop. And that is where you dive in and we help you get plugged in to this community. But this is just the first step. But if this is not who you're called to be, if you just want to go to some place where you can just show up, worship, listen to something, and then head out and sneak out without anyone knowing you, without anyone challenging you, that is not this church. And so my job is to be upfront and honest with you and just say, look, we love you, but if the Holy Spirit hasn't called you here, please find another community in this city where the bar isn't as high. And that's just who we are. But if the Holy Spirit has led you here, He's led you to uncommon life in Jesus, to live out those 5 Gs and to be a part of a community that will challenge you, exhort you, and encourage you to be what God's called you to be. So thanks for listening to this story. Thanks for discovering who we are at Grace Point. And we hope that if God has called you, you'll come along and join this journey. God bless you. Thank you.